You're drained, not because you're weak, but because you've been pouring into cups that never refill yours. You're tired, not from the climb, but from carrying people who won't even walk. The truth is, your biggest problem isn't what they take, it's what you keep giving. It's time to focus on you, not selfishly, but spiritually. There comes a moment in every person's life where they must pause and ask, who am I becoming in this giving? Giving is noble. Sacrifice is honorable. But when it becomes a lifestyle of depletion, not devotion, it's dangerous. You were not created to be a bottomless well for everyone else's thirst. You were made with purpose, with boundaries, with worth. And anything or anyone that constantly takes without return is not an assignment. It's a distraction. You must understand that overgiving is not a spiritual gift. It's often a silent cry for validation. You give and give, hoping they'll see your heart, hoping they'll stay, hoping they'll change. But they don't. And you slowly disappear. Your joy fades, your energy weakens. Your identity becomes tied to how much you do for others, not who you are within yourself. That's not service, that's self-erasure. And the longer you play savior, the more your own soul goes unsaved. Focusing on yourself is not arrogance. It's alignment. You can't pour truth into others when your cup is filled with silence and shame. You can't heal the world while bleeding on the inside. It's not your job to fix what others refuse to face. Your role is to rise, to grow, to become the version of yourself God had in mind, not the one the world keeps pulling into pieces. People will take as much as you let them. And when your value is tied to how much you give, they'll never stop asking. But what happens when you shift the focus inward? When you begin to ask, what do I need? Instead of what can I give them today? You'll feel strange at first, even guilty. But keep going, because healing often feels wrong before it feels right. You're not turning your back on people, you're turning your face toward your own purpose. And that decision is spiritual, divine, necessary. The world will call it selfish, but heaven calls it stewardship. You are a vessel. You must protect your oil. Because when your spirit is dry, your wisdom gets blurry. You start saying yes to what drains you and no to what grows you. That's not humility. That's misplaced loyalty. You were never designed to break yourself so others can feel whole. The moment you start choosing you, peace returns. Clarity sharpens. And the people who truly honor you will rise to meet you, not pull you down to use you. Many of the storms you faced didn't come from enemies. They came from your inability to stop giving what wasn't deserved. You stayed when you should have stepped back. You helped when you should have held your peace. And now you're tired, not because you're not strong, but because you've been too available. Not every crisis requires your presence. Not every problem needs your solution. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is no, not out of bitterness, but wisdom. Don't wait for burnout to teach you what boundaries could have prevented. Focus on yourself now while there's still strength in your hands and vision in your spirit. Take time to grow, to rest, to rebuild what constant giving has stripped from you. And when you rise again, because you'll give from overflow, not survival. You'll love without losing. You'll help without hurting. Because this time you'll be full first. So today make a decision to shift the spotlight inward, to care for the one who's always caring for others. That's not vanity, it's victory. When you prioritize your healing, your peace, your calling, everything else begins to align. You'll stop attracting users and start welcoming equals. You'll stop overextending and start overflowing. And you'll finally learn this truth. You don't need to give yourself away to prove your worth. You are worthy even when you're not giving. And focusing on yourself is how you finally begin to walk in that truth. You're not exhausted because you're incapable. You're exhausted because you become everyone's power source. You give without limits, pour without pause, and love without breaks. But somewhere in the process, you forgot the value of your own reservoir. People keep drawing from your strength as if it will never run out. And you keep letting them because you think that's what good people do. But goodness without boundaries becomes self-destruction. You weren't created to be everyone's lifeline. Not every problem is yours to solve. Not every weight is yours to carry. When your tiredness becomes chronic and your joy fades quietly, that's not a signal to Porter, it's a wake-up call to pull back. Because when you are constantly giving to others without ever receiving, you don't just burn out, you burn away. And no one can give what they no longer have. Giving can be beautiful, but overgiving is often a masked wound. It's that hidden belief that you must prove your worth through sacrifice. So you say yes when you want to say no. You show up when your body begs for rest. You serve people who wouldn't do half the same for you, not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of being unloved. Fear of not being enough unless you're useful. But the truth is, worth isn't earned through exhaustion. Your value is not measured by how depleted you become for others. Sometimes the deepest healing comes from realizing that your need to overgive was never about them. It was about you needing to feel seen. But you don't have to bleed to be noticed. You are already enough even when you stop giving. There's a false idea that focusing on yourself is selfish, but it's not. It's sacred. It's alignment with your purpose, your health, your divine assignment. You can't give light to others if your own flame is burning out. You can't lead others to peace if you're drowning in chaos. The moment you start to prioritize your own soul, your growth, your healing, your voice, you begin to operate from strength, not sacrifice. It's not about abandoning people. It's about returning to the person you've abandoned most yourself. When you are well within, everything you give becomes genuine, not forced. Your clarity sharpens. Your yes has meaning. Your no becomes firm. Because now you're no longer running on fumes, you're running on focus. You were never meant to be a bandage for everyone else's wounds. You were created to live fully, not constantly rescue those unwilling to grow. There's a difference between helping and enabling, between compassion and codependence. When your identity becomes locked into solving everyone's crisis, you lose your own clarity. You forget your path. You start living for others' peace while silently sacrificing your own. But your soul was never built to be a permanent emergency room. You were made for purpose, not perpetual fixing. The highest version of you is not a martyr, it's a whole, empowered, peaceful version that knows when to step in and when to step away. And it takes strength to do both. Choose wisely. The more you give, the more they take, not because they're evil, but because you've trained them to expect it. You've taught people that your time has no boundary, your energy has no end, and your love comes without self-respect. But deep down, you know it's costing you. Because the moment you stop giving, the silence is loud. The attention fades. The loyalty cracks. That's how you know who was truly for you and who was only for what you gave. Your worth must never be tied to your service. You are valuable even when you say not today. You are enough even when you don't show up. You deserve space to be, not just space to give. Real love doesn't require you to be constantly available. It requires you to be consistently whole. There are people who only remain in your life because of what you give, not who you are. They love the benefit, not the bond. And the moment you stop performing, their presence becomes distant. That is not love. That is usage. And the longer you entertain it, the more you normalize being taken for granted. You are not a machine. You are not a free service. You are a soul with limits, needs, and sacred value. Pay attention to those who disappear when you have nothing to offer. Their absence is not a loss, it's a revelation. You deserve to be surrounded by people who love your presence, not just your production. And if they can't honor your being without your doing, it's time to walk away. When you begin to build boundaries, expect resistance. People who benefited from your lack of limits will call your growth selfish. They'll say you've changed, and they're right. You have. You've awakened to your own worth. And not everyone is comfortable with that. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. You are not alive to make others comfortable at the cost of your peace. Every time you say no to what drains you, you're saying yes to what builds you. Every boundary you set is a doorway to healing. You don't owe anyone constant access. You owe yourself the kind of life that honors your energy. And sometimes that means disappointing others to stop betraying yourself. Healing doesn't always start in therapy or prayer. Sometimes it begins with walking away from the takers. The drainers, the ones who only check on you when they need something. Peace enters when pressure exits. And the longer you stay connected to people who keep you in emotional debt, the further you drift from who you're called to be. You weren't born to be a sponge for other people's problems. You were born to create, to rise, to live without apology. And you cannot do that in rooms where your kindness is manipulated and your silence is expected. Letting go is not cruelty, it's clarity. And the clearer you get, the freer you become. Giving from emptiness is not generosity, it's spiritual suicide. You've convinced yourself that as long as others are smiling, it's okay for you to be suffering. But what kind of life is that? True giving flows from overflow, from a place of strength, not survival. You don't have to stop giving. You just have to stop giving everything. Keep your peace sacred. Guard your rest. Honor your body. Fill your spirit. When you are full, your giving becomes powerful, not pressured. And that's when you become unstoppable, not drained. No is a powerful word. It's not rude. It's not unkind, it's responsible. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you're saying no to something that could build you. You cannot please everyone and still protect yourself. You are not required to stretch yourself thin just to prove your love. Saying no doesn't make you bitter. It makes you wise. And those who truly value you won't require you to explain that word. Your health, your energy, your time, these are sacred. And they deserve protection. Let no be your boundary. Let peace be your answer. When you start building a life of boundaries, some people will question you. They'll want reasons. They'll expect explanations. But the truth is, your healing doesn't need an audience. You don't owe anyone a speech about why you chose peace. People who truly honor your growth won't demand justification. They'll simply respect it. You don't need to write a paragraph every time you change directions. Your silence is sacred. Your clarity is enough. Let your boundaries speak louder than your explanations ever could. The moment you stop overextending yourself, the atmosphere around you changes. Suddenly, your mind gets quiet. Your heart beats slower. Your soul breathes deeper. Peace returns not as a reward, but as a natural result. Because when you stop stretching beyond your capacity, everything aligns. You become more intentional, more focused, more alive. The people who once pulled on your time begin to realize that you're no longer their source, and that realization either pushes them to honor you or walk away. Either way, you win. Because peace is not a gift, it's a decision. The right people will never punish you for prioritizing your well-being. They won't guilt you for needing space. They won't vanish when you stop doing everything. The ones meant for your life will remain, not because of what you give, but because of who you are. These are the relationships that feel light, not heavy. Balanced, not one-sided. And when you begin to walk in your truth, these are the people who celebrate your wholeness, not depend on your brokenness. Real love doesn't demand depletion. It respects your boundaries and protects your peace that you are not just worthy when you're giving. You're worthy when you're resting, when you're quiet, when you're healing. You don't need to earn your value. You were born with it. The world teaches you to hustle, to give endlessly, to always be doing. But heaven teaches you to be still, to know, to receive. You don't need to keep emptying yourself to be loved. You are lovable as you are. You are enough as you are. And when you finally believe that your life will change not because you did more, but because you finally believed you could do less and still be whole,